Hi, I'm Maren Leed at the National Spectrum Consortium, and I'm here today for one of the series of spotlight recordings that we do with our members to highlight their capabilities and hopefully contribute to greater collaboration amongst our membership. And I'm really thrilled to be here today with Derek Peterson, the CTO of Boingo Wireless. Derek, great to have you.
Hey, Maren, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You're a really interesting subset of our membership where you are kind of got a lot of interesting dimensions of the work that you do in your day job and then the work that you do through the NSC. So I want to explore that relationship a little bit, but could we just start by you telling me a little bit about what you do every day at Boingo?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm Derek Peterson, as I said. I'm the CTO of Boingo. So Boingo Wireless has been providing network coverage in a lot of different ways for many years. Started off in 2000, actually, focused in on Wi-Fi and how we could bring Wi-Fi to market back when it was called 802.11. Since then, we've moved and we deploy towers at military bases, Wi-Fi at military bases. We do stadiums and airports, which a lot of people know us about. And we just keep recognizing that there's a need for better connectivity. And so our job is to help connect people and connect things so that there's better experiences across the board as we're all started pushing towards digital transformation.
Well, so you mentioned, again, part of your business model is to provide some of that connectivity at DoD bases already. And a lot of our membership is certainly interested in and many are engaged in DoD's 5G initiative that is particularly focused on bringing 5G into various pilot sites around military bases in the continental United States. So you're there already in your normal business, and you're also part of some of the 5G projects. Can you talk about your view of the relationship between how the 5G initiative and the work that is going on there informs and is changing maybe the way that the military is viewing 5G? And then also one of the other value propositions that we pay a lot of attention to is not only improving the military use, but also having spinoffs into the private sector and value for the consumers and citizens too. So can you talk about how you see the 5G initiative contributing both on the defense side and on the commercial side?
You bet. Yeah. I mean, first of all, since our, last many years, our goal has really been just how do we end up bringing better experiences and bring the vision of these use cases that the DoD is trying to push, where they can do telemedicine is some of the ones that they're pushing, and be able to utilize spectrum across multiple different technologies. All these things is something that we've been pushing for a long time. In fact, I wrote a convergence manifesto that's on the wall behind me about I think it was 2014, really talking about how we need to look at 5G as more about the use cases, the experiences, and the vision that we have for the future than about the technologies. And so we need to take advantage of Wi-Fi, of cellular, of towers, of shared spectrum. CBRS was very important. Multi-fire was there for a while, and we helped push that along, and it's being used more overseas. But OnGo Alliance, I sit on the board there. The WBA is really big into moving 3GP and Wi-Fi closer together. So the good thing is the DoD and the military and even the private sector is starting to recognize that there's a lot of spectrum, and for us to be able to create these experiences, we need all of the spectrum. And so that's one of the ways that the DoD is helping, is that they're recognizing that too. They're working with us, they're working with others, and they're pushing the vendors to start thinking about, don't just create licensed equipment, but create equipment that goes across licensed, unlicensed, and shared. And by doing that and taking that stance, we're going to be able to bring that multitude of spectrum to the private sector as well. And when you think about it, the lifeblood of connectivity is that spectrum. And so we need to have as much spectrum as we can to be able to create these new use cases with low latency and higher throughput and all those different things that we're trying to do. And the DoD is creating these unique opportunities for us to go showcase how we can do that across spectrum and across technologies utilizing, MEC or mobile edge devices, and really just getting creative. And I think that that's going to help drive the next innovation cycle for all of us.
Well, so you are not, Boingo doesn't own any spectrum, right? So you are acquiring spectrum resources from the ownership as it's changing, that landscape is changing in pretty dramatic and exciting ways. So where do you see the greatest opportunities in that space? Where do you see the sort of the technical frontiers that need to be addressed, and so what's the next step in continuing to move down that path, which certainly seems to be the inevitable direction we're headed?
Yeah. So I think the good thing is, as this thing back here, I'll refer to again, it's collaboration, right? That's what we haven't had in the past. It was, okay, I'm a carrier. I ended up going and spending $1 billion buying 10 megahertz of spectrum. And then how do I deploy it? And then how do I get the best use out of that spectrum? Now it's, I need more than 10. I need to aggregate multiple different types of spectrum. So I need 100. And what we think about when we're working with our partners, and we deploy networks for all the carriers and the MSOs, as well as for the venues on unlicensed and shared license. So we kind of hit the gamut of all of them. And so we take this neutral host approach where we take a real holistic approach at what are all the use cases we're trying to solve, and then how do you solve those use cases with the technology. Now, today, what we're doing is we're doing coexistence of these technologies. So you'll have a Wi-Fi deployed next to a license, deployed next to a private CBRS network, for example. In the future, what we want is we want a co-integrated network. And so you're going to have the Wi-Fi and the cellular license network and the CBRS network, 5G network, all working in concert together to produce that use case or produce those experiences. And so that's where we're focused, is really on trying to do that. And that's going to require a lot more collaboration. And that's the key thing to the success, is we got to stop saying, okay, this is my little section, this is my little section, and really say, how do we put all these different pieces together? And that's where our approach with this neutral host that we've done for years. I mean, we've been deploying 5G for the carriers in our military bases as well as in our airports for many years now, and we'll continue to deploy 5G for them. But at the same time, the venue, the DoD, in cases of our military bases, they also want 5G. And so we've got to try to figure out, how do you use all this spectrum and give them 100 megahertz, give the military 100 megahertz, give the coffee shop 100 megahertz at the military base. They all want it. So how do you do that? And you got to get creative and work together.
Well, so can you talk a little bit about, is the NSC helping you do that? Is it, and are there specific ways that it is assisting you in that collaboration?
Yeah, definitely. When we get like-minded people together in the NSC who are all trying to solve the problem and checking their egos and some of their business models at the door, and recognizing, let's go figure out the technology, and then the business model will come. I think that's a great opportunity. And that's what the NSC is allowing us to do, is it's allowing us all to get together and just say, hey, how do we solve these challenges to be able to be the leader in 5G? And really, when we're saying about being the leaders, what we want to be in 5G, what we're saying is we want to create this next innovation cycle for what I always like to call the Internet of My Experience, or IOME, right? So we've talked about the Internet of Things, we've talked about that coming, but really when it boils down to it, we want to create the Internet of Me, or the Internet of My Experience. And so that requires this collaboration effort that's going on in the NSC.
Great. Well, that's certainly our objective. So I'm glad to hear that that's your experience. Well, thanks a bunch for spending time with me today. And please, if anybody out there has questions for me or for Derek, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. Again, Derek, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maren.